Why can you go months without thinking about someone, and then one song in the grocery store brings them back like they never left? You might not want them back, you may not even miss the relationship, but suddenly your body reacts before your mind catches up. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your attention narrows. And now this person is loud in your mind again. That doesn't automatically mean you haven't moved on. It means your brain stored more than the facts of the relationship is stored, the state of being in that relationship. I'm Dr. Tracey Reed, a psychiatrist, and this is the final video in my Science of Love series. Today I want to explain why some people stay mentally active long after the relationship is over, why a song or a smell can bring someone flooding back in, and what you can do when your brain keeps replaying a person that you're trying to release. The first thing to understand is that memory is not a clean file cabinet. Your brain doesn't store one simple folder labeled with someone's name when someone mattered emotionally. Your brain stored a network. It stored their voice, their smell, the places you went together. It stored the way your body felt around them, the anticipation before seeing them, the anxiety when things felt uncertain, and then it even stored the version of yourself that you were during that season of your life. So when that person comes back to your mind, you may not be remembering them as a separate object. You may be remembering who you were with them. That's the main point for today. What gets reactivated is not always the person, it's the state your brain associated with that person. That's why a song, a smell, or even a laugh from a stranger can feel so powerful. The cue doesn't just remind you of the person. It can pull your body back into the state you were in when that person mattered. A song comes on, and suddenly you feel the way you felt in the car with them. A smell hits you, and your body remembers a sweater, a hallway, a goodbye. And that can feel strange because your conscious mind says, "Why am I thinking about this person? I was fine 10 minutes ago." The answer is that your brain matched a present cue to a past state, and it did what it was designed to do. It recognized a pattern. Here's an example. Lena hasn't thought about her ex in months. She's not checking his social media. She's not hoping he texts her. And she's not walking around feeling heartbroken. She's just at the grocery store after work, picking up a few things. Then a song comes on. It's not even a popular song. It's just something they used to play in the car. And suddenly, Lena feels 26 again. Her body remembers the car, the windows down, the feeling of being wanted, and then the breakup that came later in that last moment. She isn't flooded with him. Exactly. She's flooded with the state of being with him, and here's what's happening in her brain. Her auditory system registers the song. Her hippocampus helps retrieve context where things happened, when they happened, and how the memory fits into her personal story. Her amygdala tags the emotional intensity as this matters, and her body begins to recreate that old state through familiar physical sensations. Then her default mode network starts doing what it does. The default mode network is a self-referential network involved in autobiographical memory, mental time travel, and meaning-making. It starts building a story. Why did that hit me so hard? Do I still miss him? Did I make a mistake? Was that relationship more important than I thought? Now Lena finds herself mentally reopening a relationship file she never intended to touch. In the middle of the grocery store, her brain isn't malfunctioning. It's running a well-designed memory system, but it's still treating an old relationship as if it needs attention. Now to see why some people stay mentally loud, we need to look at two systems fire in together: how emotional memories get etched in, and why the brain hates unfinished stories. Emotionally intense memories are stored differently from ordinary ones. The hippocampus helps encode what happened, where it happened, and the sequence of events. The amygdala marks emotional importance. When something carries strong emotion, the amygdala signals, "Pay attention, this matters deeply." That's why you may not remember what you ate for lunch on a random Tuesday 5 years ago, but you can remember the exact room where someone ended a relationship, what they were wearing, the weather, and that sentence that changed everything. The brain prioritizes emotional learning. It's not trying to be romantic, it's trying to help you learn what matters. Then there's the unfinished story problem. There's a psychological effect called the Gornick effect. We remember interrupted and incomplete tasks better than completed ones. An unanswered email, an unfinished project, or a conversation that ended before you got to say what you really meant can all stay mentally active. Relationships can create the same problem: a goodbye with no explanation, a relationship that was both loving and hurtful, or a person who made you feel chosen and then disappeared, can all leave the brain with a story that it can't easily close. Your default mode network keeps circling back because it's trying to organize the story. What did it mean? Was any of it real? What did I miss? Who was I to them? Early on, that kind of rumination can feel like problem solving, and sometimes it does help you make sense of what happened. But after a certain point, the same questions stop producing new information. They become rehearsal. Every rumination is a rap. Every time you replay the conversation, imagine a different ending or review what you should have said. The pathway gets practiced again. Practice pathways become easier to activate, and that doesn't mean you're choosing to stay stuck. It means your brain has learned a loop, and loops strengthen with repetition. This is why "I just can't stop thinking about them" can become self-perpetuating. The thought appears, you analyze it. The analysis reactivates the emotional state. That emotional state makes the person feel important again, so the brain keeps returning to the thought. And here's a point I don't want to get overlooked. A memory can be intense and still not be a message to act on. If you dream about someone years later, it doesn't automatically mean that they're the one. If your body reacts, it doesn't mean the relationship belongs in your present. It means that your brain stored an emotionally charged pattern and something reactivated it. Earlier in the series, I talked about trauma echoes, the high-intensity, dysregulated version of this very process where old wounds hijack new relationships. Today is the everyday, non-traumatic version of that same general process, but just a different volume level. The brain uses past emotional learning to interpret present cues. Sometimes that learning protects you, but sometimes it keeps you replaying something that no longer needs the same level of attention. So what do you do when this happens? The answer is not to force the memory away. Suppression often backfires and makes you think about the subject even more. A better approach is to update the memory. This is where reconsolidation comes in. When a memory is reactivated, the brain doesn't simply replay it like a video. It briefly opens the memory network and then stores it again, kind of like opening up and playing with your toys and then putting them back in the toy box during that window. New information can become linked to the old memory. That means the same mechanism that makes memory sticky also gives some flexibility. You're not erasing the person. You're reducing the charge and updating the meaning. So let's go back to Lena in the grocery store. The song comes on, her body reacts, the old state rises. The old pattern would be to spiral into the story. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe no one will make me feel that way again. The updated pattern starts naming what's happening. She might say to herself, Oh, this is my old self with him showing up again. Or this is my body remembering what it felt like to be 26. That sentence moves her from being inside the memory to observing the memory. Naming feelings, sometimes called affect. Labeling can help engage the prefrontal cortex and reduce some of the amygdala alarm response. Then the next thing she can do is identify the time of the memory. This belongs to that period of my life. This is not a current emergency. I'm in the grocery store. I'm not back in that relationship. Then she adds new context. I know more now than I knew then. I know that relationship mattered, and I also know why it ended. I know who I am now. She's not arguing with the memory. She's giving the memory new context while it's active. So the practice is simple. Name. What's happening? Place it in the past and bring in what you know now. You're telling your brain. This is an old feeling, not a current emergency. I can remember it without going back into it. And this is how you bring your present-day self into an old memory. Then comes the second part of this tool. After you name it, located, and updated, you shift into something concrete and sensory. If you stay in analysis mode too long, the default mode network can't just keep looping. You want to give your brain another network to use something. Task-focused, sensory and physical that might look like washing dishes and really noticing the temperature of the water, folding laundry, and paying attention to the textures. Taking a walk and counting. 5 things you can see or organizing one drawer. These are just a few examples. This is not avoidance. Avoidance says, I refuse to feel this. Regulation says, I felt it. I named it. I updated it, and now I'm giving my brain something concrete to hold on to. If you skip the naming and go straight to distraction, the loop may come back because the brain never got new information to attach to the memory. If you name it, locate it, update it, and then shift, you give the brain a chance to pair the old memory with new context. Over time, that can lower the charge. The cue may still appear, but the emotional intensity gets lower. So, for example, the song may still remind you of them, but it doesn't take over your whole afternoon. The memory may still exist, but it stops pulling you back into the same nervous system state. And this is what healing often looks like. Healing doesn't always mean the memory disappears. It means the memory stops deciding who you become in the present. You may still remember them, but you don't have to keep becoming the version of yourself that existed around them. This is a fitting place to close the Science of Love series, because love changes the brain. Connection teaches the brain what to expect from people. Across the series, we've looked at how love is perceived, why it does or doesn't land, how trust forms, how conflict activates threat systems, how repair updates prediction, and how loss leaves traces. Some lessons from love are genuinely useful and worth keeping. Others need to be revised, and your brain can do both at once. It can honor that something was important and also file it as past so it doesn't run your present life. In the next series, I'm widening the lens. We're going to look at your brain under pressure. Why? It reacts, shuts down, overthink, loses focus, and keeps repeating old patterns. When you're stressed, we'll move from love into applied brain science. How your nervous system, attention, habits, and mental bandwidth actually work when life is demanding, and what you can do to work with your brain instead of against it. It's going to be some good stuff. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching today. See you next time.